Captain Jake Mercer watched his training shuttle spiral toward the asteroid field with a terrified alien child at the controls. 60 seconds until impact. The boy's 4 eyes were dilated with primal terror, his hands frozen above the navigation panel, every instinct in his Jintar biology screaming at him to stop moving, to wait for rescue, to let someone else solve the problem. But there was no one else. Just Jake, a washed-up human pilot haunted by ghosts, and Tarek, a kid who'd begged for flight lessons his own species said he'd never deserve. Jake had one choice: trust an untrained alien child with both their lives, or watch them both die in the next minute. The Frontier Flight Academy on Vega 7 Station existed because humanity had discovered something the galaxy found fascinating and disturbing. Human pilots, reckless, improvisational, driven by gut instinct rather than mathematical precision, survived situations that killed every other species' trained aviators. So aliens sent their children to learn from humans, hoping to extract whatever irrational magic made Earth pilots choose action over paralysis when death seemed certain. Jake Mercer had been one of the best. Earth's most decorated rescue pilot, famous for impossible saves, until 3 years ago when his co-pilot Devin died in Jake's arms during a failed mission. Jake had hesitated, overthought, calculated the risks for 3 seconds too long. Devin paid the price. Jake quit field work and took a teaching position, drilling basic maneuvers into alien youngsters while avoiding anything that required actual courage. Safe, controlled, nothing that could get anyone killed. Then Tarek appeared. A young Jintar with 4 eyes that could perceive spatial dimensions human brains couldn't process, but cursed with his species' fear paralysis, a biological response that froze Jintar solid when threatened. His culture had already written him off as unfit for piloting, but the kid's desperation reminded Jake of Devin's younger brother, so he'd agreed to teach him basic theory. Nothing dangerous. Nothing real. Then the solar flare hit. The flare disrupted Vega 7's containment fields without warning, sending mining debris cascading through the training corridor like shrapnel. Their shuttle took a glancing impact that killed the primary navigation and damaged Jake's neural interface. Only Tarek's station still worked. They were tumbling toward an active asteroid processing zone, a maze of explosive charges, unstable rock fragments, and automated mining equipment that wouldn't register their distress until after they were debris. Jake had maybe 3 minutes. Emergency rescue needed 8. He could activate the beacon and pray. Or he could trust a terrified alien child to navigate certain death using skills he'd barely begun to learn. Jake looked at Tarek's frozen, terrified face and made his choice. "Kid, listen to me. You're flying us out." Tarek's translator barely rendered his stammered response. "I cannot. My species, when we are afraid, we cannot move. It is biology." It's bullshit," Jake snapped. The asteroid field filled their viewport, growing larger with every second. "You've got 4 eyes that can see paths through that mess I can't even imagine. But your brain is screaming at you to freeze because that's what prey animals do." 45 seconds. Jake remembered Devin's last words, whispered through blood-filled lungs. Stop thinking. Just fly. He unlocked his crash harness and lunged across the violent cabin, gripping Tarek's shoulders, a violation of Jintar social protocol, but Jake was far past caring. He forced the boy to meet his eyes. What separates human pilots from everyone else? We're not smarter. We're not faster. But when the math says we're dead, we fly anyway. We trust our hands before our heads. 30 seconds. Tarek's 4 eyes were still dilated, his hands trembling above the controls. Jake felt something ancient and primal rise in his chest, the thing that made humans charge into wildfires to save strangers. That made them stand between children and predators. That made them choose impossible action over certain death. He released a sharp, guttural roar, the sound humans make before battle, and slammed his palm against the console beside Tarek's hands. Fly, damn it! The raw aggression, the absolute confidence, the fury in Jake's voice bypassed Tarek's conscious mind and hit something deeper: recognition. This human wasn't afraid. This human was fighting. Tarek's 4 eyes snapped into crystal focus. His hands moved. Not with hesitation, but with fluid, impossible certainty. His enhanced spatial perception took over, finding invisible paths through chaos that only his species could see. The shuttle banked hard, spun, dove between colliding asteroids with inches to spare. Jake was thrown against the bulkhead, but kept shouting, "That's it! Don't think, feel it!" Tarek executed a corkscrew maneuver no Academy instructor would attempt, threading through debris at speeds that made Jake's combat experience look cautious. 20 seconds. 10. The shuttle burst free of the asteroid field, alarm screaming but intact. Tarek released the controls, his entire body shaking. His 4 eyes were bright with something that looked like wonder. He'd just done what his entire species said was impossible. Station rescue teams found them floating in open space, battered but alive. The flight recorder captured everything: impossible maneuvers, unorthodox teaching, successful defiance of certain death. The Jintar Diplomatic Council requested a meeting. Jake expected consequences. Instead, Tarek's father, a high-ranking official, spoke in halting human standard. "You taught our son something we forgot. That courage is not the absence of fear. It is flying anyway." Tarek performed the Jintar gesture of eternal gratitude, offering his 4-eyed gaze without blinking absolute trust. Jake felt the guilt he'd carried for 3 years loosen slightly. He couldn't save Devon, but he'd save this kid. Maybe that mattered. The Academy offered him a position: teach human flight instinct to alien species whose biology gave them advantages but whose cultures taught them limitations. Jake looked at the stars and thought of Devon, of Tarek, of all the kids who dreamed of flying but were told they couldn't. He accepted. 6 months later, Tarek graduated top of his class and requested search and rescue operations. His hybrid-style Jintar spatial precision combined with human, improvisational courage made him uniquely effective in crisis. Jake's program expanded. He named it the Devon Initiative. Word spread through alien communities. Humans don't just teach flight mechanics. They teach something deeper. They teach species to exceed their limitations by showing them that biology isn't destiny. Jake realized humanity's gift to the galaxy wasn't superior technology or strength. It was the irrational, beautiful belief that limitations exist to be challenged. That fear exists to be overcome. That the impossible is just a dare waiting for someone crazy enough to accept it. Tarek sent Jake a message on their anniversary. "You taught me my species' greatest weakness could become my greatest strength if I stopped letting fear choose for me. Thank you for teaching me to fly like a human." Jake watched his students, dozens of species, hundreds of youngsters learning to trust instinct over doubt. Humanity teaches the galaxy one lesson above all: we all have wings. Courage is what makes us use them.